What really is an AI coding assistant and why are we using it in this course? Great question. In order to paint a picture, I just kind of want to give an overview of AI coding assistants so that you kind of understand the lay of the land and where this all fits in. So before AI coding assistants existed, right, in the days of traditional whatever programming, we as developers would code things, but we still relied on a lot of other resources, right? So we had our developer environment, where we'd be coding things, but we'd also have, a tab up for a tutorial that we were following and 10 different tabs open for an issue that we were Googling how to troubleshoot, and some guy's forum up that we really respected his code samples or something. And that's just a few examples, but basically developing before AI meant having a lot of different tabs open and constantly switching between them. Not only did you have that kind of context switching, that constant context switching between your developer environment, the code, and all these other resources, but perhaps the most frustrating thing is that once you found that one solution from like user 562 about how to do something or how to fix something, you would copy and paste that code into your developer environment and it may or may not work. A, because the code just might not have worked when they posted it, things might have changed since they posted it. It also didn't have the context of what you were coding. So their code might not have exactly fit your project, or you might not have understood their code and been able to make it fit your project. So that is what development looked like in the olden days, as in like a few years ago. Those are some of the challenges that AI coding assistants kind of address. Now, things are constantly changing with AI, so I'm going to give you the layman's explanation of AI assistants and some other buzzword terms. I'm sorry to have to do so much of this. We're in the AI bubble, but you're not going to understand exactly what all this is unless I have a video on it. I'm going to explain it in my own layman's terms for, what makes sense, the recording of this video. And just keep in mind that you do need to stay on top of developments yourself, right? I mean, it would have to be a full-time job for me to stay on top of developments in AI, and to be honest, I'm not really interested in that. This will give you a nice foundation to continue to stay abreast of changes on your own. The AI that most of us are familiar with are based on large language models. There are different types of models for AI, so don't be confused by that. But yeah, large language models are typically what we're talking about. It doesn't matter what AI you are using, they are using some sort of large language model on the back end. So some of the tools out there are the large language model itself, like ChatGPT. Others are some tool that calls out to the large language model, maybe adds some additional features or functionality or something, some kind of benefit. But AI coding assistants are similar to regular AI assistants in that regard. They are using a large language model to, answer a prompt. And large language models are meant to answer and respond with text, right? And I guess there's images now, but whatever. So you're putting in some sort of text, like, hey, tell me how to do this, explain that, pretend to be a developer, what would you say about that? That model is going to respond based on the data that it was trained on. This is where one of the key differences between AI assistants and AI coding assistants exists, is that AI assistants are typically generalist. They are trained on a bunch of publicly available information on all kinds of things, meaning that they know a little bit about everything, but not a lot about any one particular thing. That would be things like ChatGPT or, Gemini or something. I'll put some more options on the screen. An AI coding assistant, however, has been trained specifically on publicly available, or at least up to, I think this time, publicly available code. So it is much more likely to give you an accurate response when you ask for something code related. It is a specialist. So that's one key difference, right? We don't want to use a generalist in our programs. We want to use a specialist, a coding specialist. The second big difference is that a lot of these AI coding assistants and large language models, a lot of them are now able to be integrated into your developer environment. So they have the context of your project. Remember when I was saying that you'd be looking for a solution online and user 256 might have it, you think, but then you put it in and you're not quite sure that it exactly fits your code, your project. Well, we don't really have that problem anymore, because whenever the AI coding assistant answers your question, they answer it with the context of what your project looks like, what you're trying to achieve, and any other information that you provided. And sorry all about the changing background, I got baby Dev here. Everything's okay, it's just mom life. So what you need to understand is that while AI coding assistants aren't genius, they don't magically know how to do everything in code. right? They've just been trained on what we've given them. They have massively accelerated learning. Yes, they generate code, they will do things quote unquote for you, but this level focuses on the fact that they are basically Google on steroids, and really better than Google because again, it understands your project to some extent. It has that context. Again, context switching and context aware are the keywords here. All right, y'all, I forgot to mention one last really important thing. I think just because I'm sick of talking about AI, I'm tired of explaining the same thing to people, but this is important to know. You also will not get the same answer every time you ask AI a question, even if you ask the same question in the same way every time. And that's just the nature of how the models work, right? It is probabilistic, that, you know, it uses probabilities to determine what you might want as a response. So some of the time you might get the same response and some of the time you won't, or it might just be slightly different. So just keep that in mind. The quality of your prompt or your question determines the quality of your response or answer, but that doesn't mean you're guaranteed the same answer every time. Now, since the creation of this course, there are also AI agents to contend with. So what's the difference between an assistant and an agent? Again, this is my layman's definition as of today, but AI assistants are that ChatGPT, you know, prompt and get a response situation. AI agents are talking about autonomously doing tasks and autonomously doing specialist tasks. You can have a coding agent because it's a specific task. You can have an accounting agent. I don't know if there are any networking agents right now. I need to look into that. I'm not exactly abreast of what's new right now. I mean, that's not fair to say, but you know, I could be more abreast right now. But yeah, agents are doing the task for you, and there is more to it than that, but we don't get into it in this level. I am likely going to add that to level 3, where we do generate code now that AI agents are so popular and prevalent in our tooling. But we are new coders, right? We are new to coding, and so we don't really need to worry about the fact that AI agents exist at this point in time. We are focused on learning and building that foundation, honing our skills, because agents make plenty of mistakes too, and you also need to know how to guide it, what skills to give it, etc. Now here's another caveat, is that in order for me to teach you practically how to use an AI coding assistant, I need to choose one and stick with it so that you can actually understand what it does from a practical, concrete point of view. However, not everybody uses the same AI coding assistants. I am going to be using GitHub Copilot in this course, and there's a few different reasons why. One is because that's the one that I already know very well and have researched and have given Cisco live talks on. That is what my distinguished speaker talk was about, using GitHub Copilot to help network engineers with scripting. But I did choose that assistant because it is the assistant of choice for a lot of enterprise companies. So there's a big chance that you would be required to use it. At the time of my Cisco live talks, it was also the most popular AI assistant on the market. I don't know if it is now. I'm gonna double check that while I'm editing this video. Yes, I know some of y'all are Microsoft haters. I'm sorry. It is what it is. I had to choose one. If you don't like it, you're welcome to use another assistant, but there might not be one-to-one comparisons of things I'm showing and what your AI assistant looks like. Just make sure that it's a coding specialist. That's my only ask. If you're not thrilled about using GitHub Copilot, or you're just like curious what else is out there, or if there's a better AI assistant, rest assured that once you learn one coding assistant, it makes it a lot easier to learn another. Because again, we're starting foundations. Worst case scenario, you know more than one. So we are using GitHub Copilot, and that's a great thing for some of you and not for others, and I'm sorry. Okay, one last thing that I feel like I should probably mention is that, you know, these AI coding assistants used to be free to cheap, and, you know, things are changing rapidly, as I mentioned throughout this video. There is a chance that GitHub Copilot or AI coding assistants out there are going to change their price points frequently or do the task you need to do, etc. We're going to talk about what that looks like at this point in time for GitHub Copilot in the next video. We're going to talk all about how to use GitHub Copilot, get the lay of the land for the course. But just keep that in mind, that not necessarily free to use these things, especially once you start coding a lot. If you have questions about AI coding assistants in general, or using GitHub Copilot in this course, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And thanks for being here. Thanks for doing level 2. Let's jump into using GitHub Copilot. Take care. Get a good nap after this video while you're at it.